Mind over matter. You all know the story. A woman's loved one trapped under a car somehow manages to break her preconceived physical limits, all because her mind said she could. Building muscle is important and essential to improving your athletic performance. But what if I told you there's something even more important than that? Your muscles contracting in coordination with one another is what allows you to perform specific movements. As your nervous system becomes sharper, your power outputs will improve. And this is all possible without even building any new muscle. Over the past year, I've maintained the same weight, and the differences are astounding. My lower extremities have seen both an increase in strength and power. Yes, building muscle is the fastest way to improve your power outputs, but just like fat, muscle has its own weight, and it's even denser in fact. Different muscles twitch at different speeds, depending on how it was built and what it was built for.
Well, again, he likes it.
If building neuromuscular connections was not that important, then bodybuilders would outclass any other sport in strength because they have more muscle mass than in any other sport. Not to say that you shouldn't build muscle, because you should, but if you listen to what I have to say and the studies that I'm about to show you, you might just change your mind. That's if you had an imposing position in the first place or even had a position to begin with. To be honest, I'm not the biggest reader, but this cause is greater than my dread to read. And I actually found a lot of interesting stuff that I think you'll be interested in. I'm the kind of person that likes to use self-analysis, and it's what I've been doing throughout my workouts. I've been, through trial and error, been testing out what works and doesn't work for my workouts and improving my vertical. But when I looked at these studies, I actually found so much interesting things. And so let's just look at the first study right now, and you'll see what I mean. The first study isn't as interesting as the second one, but it's still important, I think, to the conclusion. So they have ages 15 to 24 years old in the study, and they had a sample size of exactly 1,111 people. I'm not sure why they did that, but that was the study. And their studies concluded that the neuromuscular training with little to no weight improved power and agility, but not strength. They don't say exactly what exercises they were doing, but to me this sounds like they were doing plyometric activities. I'm not sure what you think, but if you really think about it, if you look at the force velocity curve at the end of it, that's where you get your high velocity and power activities, or speed, strength, or whatever you want to call it. And plyometrics are in that range of activity, so it only makes sense to me that they were doing plyometrics. And it says that they were using low weights or no weights, so what else could you be doing except for plyometrics? I mean, I guess they could have maybe been doing calisthenics, I guess, I don't know, but I feel like then they would see strength increases. But I shouldn't be using my bias to look at these studies, I guess. I should be looking at it with a blank mind, like a baby. Now, this isn't groundbreaking information, but it's just kind of setting up my point that plyometrics are really good for improving your power outputs, and you shouldn't just be lifting weights. And I think that the whole mind over matter thing is actually true when you look at even more of these studies. So let's look at study number 2 and see what you think. Study number 2 was it just blew my mind. Like, I learned so much that I didn't even know existed, and I want to further learn, so I might even make a part 2 on it. You'll see. So in this study, they actually make a chart breaking down the different adaptations and how important they are within every variation of intensity. The studies indicate that intramuscular coordination and dishibitation of inhibitory mechanisms, I don't even know what that is yet. I didn't finish my research, so I'm gonna finish it while I make this video. But those two factors become more important at a higher intensity of training, while other forms of adaptations like intramuscular coordination and hypertrophy become less important as the intensity increases. Your first thought is probably that I'm not even speaking English, and how am I supposed to apply this if I don't even know what I'm listening to? So I'm going to explain what each of these adaptations that are possible are to your muscles and why they are important. Before we get too deep into the juiciest part of the video, you should know that I am not some doctor. What I say does not hold weight. It's not the law or anything like that. I'm just a person who read a couple of articles and studies and thinks they know what they're talking about. So if you disagree with anything I'm saying, just comment and I'll read the comments. So let's just start with hypertrophy, because I think it's the easiest to understand. Basically, Hypertrophy is just building muscle or new muscle tissue or more muscle, however you want to put it. And the studies basically concluded that the higher the intensity of the exercise, the less hypertrophy matters. And to me, this makes sense. And remember, this is a strength test. It's not even getting into power or high velocity activities. I think if it did test those areas, you would see even a bigger disparity of hypertrophy not mattering. Like if it was a higher velocity activity like a power clean or a hang, or just a hang power clean, for example, I think you would see that hypertrophy almost has no correlation with your ability to perform that exercise. So the next adaptation possible we're going to look at is, I don't even know how to pronounce this, disinhibition of inhibitory mechanisms.
It sounds like Johnny can't read.
This one is basically how active your neurons are while you're performing an exercise. So it's basically the power output of your neurons alone without your muscles. This means that to build strength, according to this article, that building muscle is not as important as improving your neuron activity to get stronger. The next two types of adaptations that are possible, I'm going to explain at the same time because they can get confusing. So there's intermuscular coordination and there's intramuscular coordination. So the difference between these two is that intramuscular coordination is basically your ability to coordinate with a single motor pattern versus intermuscular coordination is basically your ability to connect multiple motor patterns together. For example, so intramuscular coordination is basically your raw power output versus intramuscular coordination, or for example, when you're dribbling a basketball, you're using more intermuscular coordination because you're coordinating multiple motor patterns, versus if I am running, I'm using more intramuscular coordination because I guess a bit of both actually. Wait, hold on. That's a mix of both because you're repeating the same motor pattern over and over, which is kind of intermuscular coordination, while you're still mainly using intramuscular coordination because you're mainly focused on pushing forwards. So a better example would be like, I guess, jumping, right? Jumping is more intramuscular coordination because when you jump, dang.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Okay, hold up, I just made a mistake. So everything I explained about intermuscular coordination is really muscle synchronization, which is a part of intramuscular coordination. But what intermuscular coordination really is stuff like, it's pretty much multitasking. Like if I'm juggling while kicking a soccer ball, I'm both focusing on two complete different motor patterns that completely splits my focus, which most people normally couldn't do, but if you train for it, you can do. But it is kind of different. Like you're doing two complete different motor patterns versus synchronization is synchronizing everything to do one specific task. Like for example, if I'm running, that's synchronization because I'm synchronizing all my muscles to run, which is different from synchronizing my muscles to run while I juggle at the same time. That would be more intermuscular coordination. So if that makes sense, I think that makes more sense. I hope you guys understand what I was trying to say because I don't even know if I understand what I was saying and I was the one explaining it. So yeah, so your intramuscular coordination is shown to be not important at all. Pretty much just don't even focus on it. But intramuscular coordination is shown to be extremely important. Knowing that one motor pattern and knowing how to execute it as fast as you can is basically the definition of intramuscular coordination. So yeah, that one is the one you want to focus on. So moving on, within intramuscular coordination, we have three different sections. We have synchronization, which I just explained, muscle recruitment, and we also have rate coding. So let's get into the other two. Rate coding is basically how much force you can generate through a voluntary contraction of a muscle. And it's shown to be just as important if you're training for low intensity or with high intensity. And this is where muscle recruitment comes in. It's basically how much percentage of a muscle you can use. So for example, if you have if you can possibly produce 500 pounds of force with all your muscle, and if you have 80% recruitment, that means that you can use 400 pounds of muscle. That's why in certain situations, some people, like I said in the first situation with the girl who flipped the car over, she was able to use probably close to 100% of her muscle because it was a dire situation. Compared to on a day-to-day basis, I'm not sure what that percentage would be. So now that we know intramuscular coordination and dishibitation of whatever it's called, that those two are really important for improving your strength outputs, power outputs, and whatnot. How do we improve these things? And to be honest, I don't even know. I don't have a single clue. I mean, I'm assuming plyometrics and stuff is the way to improve these things, but like, to be honest, like, I don't really, maybe I'll do more research and then I can make a part 2, but for now, this is all I got. So if you liked that video, I appreciate it, and I hope you learned a lot about the neuromuscular coordination and how important it is to your athletic performance. I think it's even more important than the study showed because, for one, this is all based on strength. If you look at the study, everything is talking about strength. And when it comes to athleticism, power, and high velocity activities, I think these become even more important than what the studies show. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I mean, I guess I could go on with my opinion, but it doesn't really matter because I don't even know what I'm talking about in this realm. I mean, I guess I have my own personal experience, being that for the past year I've been 185, but all of my lifts have almost doubled. Like at the start of last year, not doubled, sorry. But at the start of last year I could squat 275 with struggling technique, and this year when I'm fully rested I can squat 315 pretty easily, maybe even get a couple reps if I'm about it. But yeah, and then even the year before that I was like 170, so I don't really want to count that because strength improves dramatically more when you gain weight than, like, it exponentially increases the more weight you gain. So, but yeah, the past year I have seen major strength improvements gaining no weight, so that has to be neuromuscular gains. So yeah, if you want to jump higher, run faster, neuromuscular gains are the way. Not building muscle. Hypertrophy will add weight onto your frame and it will make you slower, but of course you want to gain a little bit of muscle over time, but hypertrophy really doesn't matter if you want to become more athletic. It's the neural pathway that is really what is important when it comes to athleticism. So yeah. So tell me why I'm about to post the video and then I see this. So pretty much, I guess my phone has been seeing that I've been searching a lot of neuromuscular videos and articles and whatnot, and now all these videos are popping up on my Instagram feed, and it's kind of crazy. Like, I just see this girl like spazzing out on my feed and I'm just laughing. So now I want to see more videos of training and stuff like that. So if I see any other stuff, I'll put it on, like, in this part of the video. But I don't know, is this the way in 2030 or something? Is this how training is gonna be going, in this direction? Training the nervous system. I see potential in it, but at the same time, it does look kind of goofy. Like even the way I train sometimes, like, people probably think I'm goofy, but this is like next level. Like, this just looks like someone's having a seizure. But let me know what you guys think, and yeah, that's the end of the video for real this time.